Greetings and welcome everyone to this presentation on Clearview Christian Camp's long-range plan for the camp's revitalization. You could have chosen to watch this video for any number of reasons, but what we hope is that you, like us, are here because you care deeply about this camp and you're excited to hear about its future and hopefully partner with us to make it happen. Throughout the course of this presentation, we'll touch upon a number of different areas. First, we will provide you with a very brief history on the camp. We find it's important to know a little bit about our history, what we've done, and how we got to where we are now. Next, we'll talk about why we want to do a project like this at all. Is this camp something that we really want to support? After that, we'll dive into what are all the individual projects that make up this revitalization phase, and why are these things important? Then, and this might be a bit of a spoiler, but we'll dive into a little more details on our plans for the main hall. Why does it need to be done? What decisions have gone into the design of the building, and what does our proposed building look like? Once we've talked about the main building, we'll very quickly talk about the next steps for how we get from where we are now to having a new main building and some of the milestones along the way. And finally, we'll discuss how you can partner with us with these projects. I've included on this slide the start times for each of these sections, so if you want to skip ahead to a part that you're particularly interested in, please feel free to do so. Now let's jump in. Clearview Christian Camp is located at Kenosi Lake in Moose Mountain Provincial Park in Saskatchewan, Canada, and we've been running camps since around about 1961. By 1963, we had built a number of uninsulated plywood cabins for our campers and the staff, and we also built our main hall using repurposed trusses from an aircraft hangar that came out of Weyburn, Saskatchewan. And over the next 35 or so years, we do some minor improvements here and there, but nothing major. In the 1980s, we finally replaced our outhouse washrooms with a modern bathroom facility that had showers. And over the years, we had been given a number of older, unused buildings donated to us that we would set up and use for either a classroom or a storage room or whatever we needed at the time. But by about 1999, the age and the elements had really taken its toll on a lot of our buildings. The roof of our main hall was very leaky and was showing a noticeable sag. And health inspectors were starting to raise concern about the state of our camper cabins. The rot and the mildew were putting us in danger of being shut down. So in around 2000, we started what we now call our Revitalization Phase 1. Obviously, our top priority was to replace our camper cabins. But if we were going to do that, we wanted to make sure we kept our eyes open to the future. So the buildings had to be insulated and maintenance-free, and we wanted to have the capability to run heaters if we ever wanted to extend our camping season. We also wanted to increase our camp's camper capacity while also having some of these buildings be able to act as family cabins with front and rear access and a door that could be closed for privacy between the front and the rear of the cabin. And so over the next 2 years, we ended up building 6 new camper cabins. But the camper cabins weren't the only areas of the camp that needed to be improved. Some of our donated buildings were also not in good shape, and the camp as a whole just looked tired and worn. And so for the next 6 years after that, we continued to overhaul the camp and to get our facilities that the camp needed in place. We put in a large athletic pad for basketball and other sports. We replaced one of our aging buildings with a large multi-purpose building that we could use as a classroom or craft room or just a larger indoor space. We removed some of the old building remnants that were around that were safety hazards and were taking up space on one of our athletic fields. We modernized and reorganized our kitchen for better workflow and to conform to food safe standards. And we painted everything and fixed everything that we could find and gave the camp a new life. And we managed to do all of that work using volunteer labor. So by the end of 8 years, we were tired, there was exhaustion, we needed a bit of a break. But there were still some things that we just needed to do that we just couldn't get to. So as a stopgap measure, we put tin on the sides and roof of our remaining staff cabins, and we covered the main hall roof with tin to try and stop the leaks. And this is where we ended up stopping for the next 10 or so years. But the time has come for us to pick up where we left off. We still have a number of buildings that we need to look at replacing, and our camp needs have changed over the last 10 years, and so we need to get the proper facilities in place that we can continue to offer camp and make sure that camp is around for the next 50, 60 years. And so we are excited to announce the launching of our Revitalization Phase 2 plan. For the remainder of this presentation, we will share with you our vision for the future of our camp, talk about what areas we want to improve, and to discuss the reasons why some of these initiatives are so important to the camp and its future. And it is our hope that by hearing these things that you would join us in being excited about the future of our camp and that you'd want to partner with us in helping to make this a reality. But why revitalize at all? Why go through this process? Why replace some of our buildings? They work, don't they? Well, most of our remaining older buildings could continue to function as they are, with one exception that we know has to be done, and then we'll have to touch on in more detail later on. But where we want to continue to grow, and what we are seeing in some of our weeks now, is that our current facilities are not sufficient. The first thing we have to agree on is how this camp still fills a very real need, and the work it does is important, both as a congregating place for our churches and also as a place to spread the word of God to as many people as possible. So when we started to design and plan for this a few years ago, we recognized that just replacing buildings isn't the way to grow the camp. We also have to work on things like our programming and how we advertise and communicate and just get the word out of what we're doing. So while designs were being drafted, we also took time to focus on expanding the number and the breadth of the weeks and weekends that we offer. We're now in a place where we can pride ourselves on offering something for everyone. We have multicultural camps, a creative art camp, many family-oriented camps. And we really do have camps for every age group, from the youngest of kids to our young at hearts 50-plus age group. We have also put a lot more effort into promoting our different weeks through Facebook and on our website, and offering incentive programs for inviting a friend to camp. For the past 5 or 6 years, we've created fun camp videos highlighting some of our weeks just to show kids what happens at camp and the fun that we have. And we've had great responses from those things. And as a result of all those things, over the past few years, we have seen a steady increase in the number of campers, both young and old, that have come and attended one or more of our camping events. And even though we don't track the first-time campers for all of our weeks, we have seen a steady increase in the number of first-time campers that are just discovering our camp for the first time. And that is very encouraging to us because it means the gospel is being shared with more and more people. What is also impressive to us is where our campers are coming from. While the majority of our campers do come from southeast Saskatchewan and into Manitoba, our camp will also draw people all the way from Winnipeg, Manitoba to Calgary, Alberta, which is more than a 10-hour drive. But our camp isn't all about the camper numbers either. Another area we have been monitoring is the number of people that have come out to volunteer at the camp, either through one of our work weeks or they come and they help out at one of our camping events. In a time where they say volunteerism is down and people don't give of their time like they used to, we are consistently getting over 100 people that make their way out to the camp and volunteer for significant amounts of time to help out, sometimes weeks at a time. And we find this stat very encouraging to us. With the growth we have seen so far, we are now being presented with some challenges, and there are deficiencies in our camp facilities that are hindering us from fully realizing the potential for this camp. And that's where we'll go into the next section, where we'll start talking about some of the areas that are included in our plan, and we'll talk about why they're important for the longevity of the camp. So what is included in this revitalization phase 2? As we mentioned in the previous section, a lot of the work we have done to promote the camp and raise awareness has resulted in an increase in the number of people and families that are coming to our different weeks and weekends. We believe strongly in providing a space for families to spend time together at an affordable price in a Christ-centered atmosphere, but our camp just doesn't have the family-type cabins to make this comfortable or to accommodate larger families. In addition, we have seen such growth in some of our weeks that when we get up to the 50-60 kid mark, we just don't have enough staff cabins to accommodate the amount of staff that we need to properly supervise and facilitate the week. So one area that we are wanting to revitalize is the size and number of our staff and family cabins. In phase 2 here, we are planning to replace our 3 smaller 4-person uninsulated plywood staff cabins with 6 larger 6 to 8 person family cabins. These cabins would be fully insulated and a lot more comfortable than the cabins we currently have. and will make it more enjoyable for staff and families, and even more the more elderly people to come and enjoy camp in a comfortable way. Another area of tension or concern is our canteen and sports shack buildings. These are both the best of what was left over from when we replaced the camper cabins and are by far in the worst shape. In addition, we found that when we're running a camp with a larger number of kids, the canteen time is a huge bottleneck, sometimes taking up to an hour to get all the kids through. So in phase 2, we have a plan to try and combine these two buildings into a single building with separate sections. The sports shack section would allow us to have pass-through windows, so if we wanted to have more control over the sports equipment, we can have someone manage and distribute that equipment through the pass-through windows. On the canteen side, we would have multiple service windows available so that we can serve more kids quicker. And added to these buildings, we also want to include a large covered but open air area that would allow people to sit and be outside and even in rainy weather, but still protected from the elements. Having these spaces that are still outside but protected from the elements is an area that we are currently lacking at our camp. Allowing for RV and camper parking is something that we sort of do now, but we don't do it well. So in phase 2, we want to add in 2 dedicated RV camper parking stalls that have better electrical service. Which actually leads us into another initiative that we have already almost completed. The camp currently runs on a 200 amp service, but that service is already maxed out. So in order for us to support our new facilities and improve the buildings that we currently have, we've upgraded our service to 400 amp. This new service was also brought in as a buried line to help protect the camp from power outages caused by fallen trees. In addition to these other main areas, we're always looking for ways to enhance our camper experience. One thing that I've always wanted was to build an outdoor open-air classroom that is surrounded by trees. Being able to have a Bible class outside, secluded in an area surrounded by nature, I think provides a great atmosphere, and I believe it would quickly become a favorite place to meet and have these class times. But by far the crown jewel for the whole Phase 2 project is the plan to replace our main hall with a new building that will suit our needs much better. In the next section, we'll break down the plan that we have to replace the main hall. We'll show you our initial designs and explain the reasons why this initiative is so important. There's no getting around the fact that replacing the largest and arguably the most important building at the camp is going to be a huge job. This is not something that's done very often, and that makes it all the more reason to do it right. After all, whatever we end up building, we'll be using for the next 60 plus years. And out of all the buildings at the camp, this is the building that needs the most work. I had mentioned earlier in this presentation that the roof was showing serious sagging. When we got up there to put the tin on the roof to stop the leaks, there were sections that had to be shimmed up over 6 inches in order to level the strapping to support the tin. And at times when we were hammering in the shims into the roof, we could feel how little strength there was there. The bottom line is the roof of the main hall is suffering from serious rot. And so at the very least, if we did nothing else, we would have to replace the roof. But unfortunately, that is not the only area of the building that is showing distressing signs. The walls of the building are leaning inwards a bit, and there's significant rotting around our windows. I am very confident that if we were to start working on a project to replace the roof, in the end we would just find enough things wrong with the structure of the building, we would be looking at replacing the entire building. So if we're going to be looking at replacing the building anyway, we need to do what is in the best interest of the camp. We need to take into consideration how the camp operates. Are there issues with the camp that we can solve with a new building? And we need to look to the future to make sure that the building that gets built will be the one that can best handle where we want to go. So the first step is defining what other issues does our camp currently have, and then let's see if we can find a solution that would allow us to replace the main hall and also make the camp operate better. The first consideration has to do with a change in our playable area. When the camp first started, we've always had this large soccer-sized field at the bottom of our hill that we could use for sports and games. But in around 2017-2018, Moose Mountain Provincial Park decided that Kenosee Lake was receding too much, and they took steps to try and open up the waterways to help bring the water level back up. And they were very successful. And while this is great for launching canoes into the water, it ended up flooding our field and reducing our playable area by half. Our only large play area remaining is the one that we have at the top of our hill. And this area, while it's not a bad size, is not large enough to do many of the activities we used to do. If we're going to replace the building, we have to ask ourselves, is its current location really the best spot for this building? If we were to move the building to another area, not only would that free up the natural path for the water to drain, but it would also allow us to have a much larger, more usable play area that would give us greater flexibility in being able to do the activities we want to do. The second consideration is one of safety. If the building location is moved, we can landscape our existing field to make it a great play area free from hazards. One of these hazards is the existing kitchen septic system. This hole in the ground is a constant source of stress for myself and other directors. It would be great to have a play area free from hazards so we know they are playing in an area that's as safe as possible. By moving the building, we can remove the septic tank and create a large, safe place. The third consideration has to deal with having a large indoor multi-purpose space. Ideally, kids can come to camp, they play outside for the week or weekend, and then we send them home exhausted. But in reality, if we happen to hit a week with a lot of rain, it makes it very difficult to keep the kids active enough to burn off their energy. As a director, one of the most difficult parts of the planning is what to do in case of rain, and this becomes even harder if there's a significant stretch of rain. We need a large enough indoor area to be able to run activities for all of our weeks of camp, even the larger ones. Our current building works okay for smaller camps, but it is just too cramped for the larger ones. If we are putting in a new building, ideally this building would have a large multi-purpose space to give directors and staff options for keeping kids active during periods of prolonged rain. The fourth consideration has to do with our bathroom facilities. The camp currently has a single set of bathrooms with bathroom and shower waste going into a single septic tank. Once the septic is full, the bathrooms become unusable and we have to wait for the tank to be drained, which could take many hours. For larger weeks, this could happen in a single day if some campers are choosing to shower. Ideally, we could have a second set of bathrooms that operate with a separate septic system that would keep us going when one septic system gets filled until we can get it emptied. The fifth consideration has to deal with our kitchen. One of the toughest jobs at camp throughout the week is that of the cook. Larger camps can have up to 4 or 5 cooks operating in the same space at the same time. And with our current kitchen, our dish crews are also in the kitchen doing dishes at that time, and it could cause a lot of chaos.
It's raining tacos!
If you're going to have a newer building, having a better flow, having a more comfortable kitchen with dedicated prep areas with no through traffic is a must if we wish to conform to food safe standards. Now, we have only gone into detail on the top 5 considerations that have gone into the design of the new building. But these are by no means the only areas that we have taken into account. There's also the benefit to having a building that conforms to modern building standards. They need to have easy access for those that are physically disabled, to increase the amount of covered space so people can be outside longer, plus so many other benefits. All of this goes towards saying we put a lot of thought into this building design and to ensure that the building that gets built is the one that would truly meet the needs of the camp. So let's take a closer look at some of the finer details of this building. From this exterior view, you can see our large covered deck area, as well as our ramp designed for easy access. As we journey inside, we'll first come to our large multi-purpose area. We want this area to have high ceilings so we can move out all the tables and chairs, and we can use it as an activity area for times when the weather doesn't cooperate. We also intend to include in this space a large fireplace so that we can have indoor campfires on rainy days. Off the multi-purpose area on the left, you can see this is where the dishwashing room will be, and on the right will be our food serving area. Now we'll journey into our spacious kitchen. The kitchen was designed to have several distinct prep areas to allow multiple cooks to be able to work together comfortably. Straight ahead is our food pantry, which we use to protect and store our food. And finally, we arrive at our cooking area with the large island located directly across from it. Here's a view of our interior floor plan. In this view, you can see the large kitchen area, the separate dishwashing area where the bathrooms are, the walk-in pantry, and the large multi-purpose area. All of these images, as well as a complete rundown of the project, can be found on our website at www.clearviewchristiancamp.ca. under our projects and the Revitalization Phase 2 section. So where do we go from here? What are the next steps? How can you get involved? Here's a rough timeline of what we see as the next actions. Currently, we are here in our initial fundraising step. Our first goal is to raise 1.2 million. Our initial estimates we got for this building ranged anywhere from 450,000 to 1.2 million, and this was a few years ago, so we assume the cost will be higher. We don't think this will be enough to get the building done, as the park requires us to raise 120% of the money, but this amount gets us close enough so that we can hire an architect to help with the project. There's still some minor changes that we want to make to the building, so once we hire the architect, we will finalize the building design, and then we'll hire a builder who will provide us with a much more accurate quote. If the building estimate ends up higher than what we've raised, which is what we expect, then we will continue fundraising until we get to the 120% of the funds required by the provincial government. While we are fundraising, the architect will start the process of getting building permits and provincial approval, which could take anywhere between 6 and 12 months. Once the funds are in place and we have all the approvals, we will look to break ground once our camping season has wrapped up for that year. The new building will be built and the old building will be removed and the area will be cleaned up before camp begins for the next season. Over the course of this video, we've talked about the current state of the main hall, and we've outlined our plans for its replacement, as well as some of the other deficiencies in the camp that we can solve with this new building. But the bottom line here is that the current building is not going to last forever. Its problems are very real, and at some point it will deteriorate to a state where we can no longer safely use it. Not proactively working towards replacing it would be irresponsible on the part of us, the camp board, and waiting until something serious happens would be too late to start working towards planning for the future. The time for this project is now, and the urgency for it should be high just due to the fact that we don't know what will happen in the future. And so that brings us into our final section. How can you be involved? First off, we recognize that none of this is possible without God. So the most important thing we need right now is prayers. Prayers for this project, prayers for the camp. It is so true that with God all things are possible, and so we will be leaning heavily on God over the coming months and years. The next thing we would love for you to be involved in is spreading this message as far as possible to as many people as possible. The camp has been running for over 60 years, and there are a lot of people whose lives have been touched by this camp. We want everyone to have the opportunity to be a part of this with us. So please share this video with your friends, with your family, to anyone that you can think of that want to see this camp continue to operate for another 60 years. Next, if you are able, we would appreciate your donation. Every dollar counts, so we are eager to accept a gift of any size. For your convenience, we will outline a number of different ways that you can give. Clearview Christian Camp is a fully registered charity, so any money donated to the camp will be receipted. So if you want, you can send your donation directly to the camp. You can do that in a number of ways. First, you can send an e-transfer to treasurer@clearviewchristiancamp.ca and just indicate that the donation is for our capital projects. If you would rather send your donation through check, please contact our treasurer and he can send you the address you can send your check to. Again, the email address is treasurer@clearviewchristiancamp.ca. You also have the option of donating online via credit card from our website. If this is the most convenient for you, then please feel free, but we do lose a little bit from administration fees for credit card transactions. But we want you to use whatever method is most convenient for you. However, there is another option that might be a better option. If you are a member of a church, you can talk to your church to see if they would be willing to accept a donation on your behalf and then have them send the money on to us. If we were to receive a donation from another charitable organization, we can apply for a grant from the Church of Christ Development Fund, and we may be eligible to have them match either the full amount or a percentage of it. This option may be the best bet to maximize the money we receive, so touch base with your home church and see if this is something that they're able to do. You can always get updated on the fundraising status by visiting the Revitalization Phase 2 section of our website. We will try and keep the fundraising status up to date so you can see where things are at any time. And if you haven't already, please consider joining our Clearview Christian Camp Facebook page. This is our preferred method for publishing updates and news about camp weeks and projects. And you can find links to all these areas in the video description section. We are so excited about the future, and we hope you are too. This camp has done so much good, and we are committed to making sure the camp continues to do so for many, many years to come. Thank you for making it to the end of this video. I hope that you found it informative, and if you require more information or would just like to talk about this project, please feel free to contact me, and I'd be happy to share with you more details. My email is on the screen and can be found in the description as well. And if you haven't been out to the camp in a while, please register for one of our weeks and come check us out. We offer something for everyone, so we look forward to seeing you in the future. And finally, thank you. Thank you for your interest and your love for this camp. It is having great people like you sharing your memories and your experiences at this camp that will help us continue to operate and provide a whole new generation of campers the opportunity to create their own amazing memories. So thank you for your support and for your prayers. We are excited to partner with you on this journey.